What's up, brothers and sisters? It's your brother G World 7 underscore D. Here's a book that was written by Michael Bradley. It's called Chosen People from the Caucasus. It says Jewish origins, delusions, deceptions, and historical role in the slave trade, genocide, and cultural colonization. All right. This book was written back in 1992. This author also did the book Iceman Inheritance, as well as the Black Discovery of America, which was the title in Canada, but here was the African Discovery of America. You know, he's a racist too, but this is some good information that he has in his book. This edition was forwarded by Dr. John Clark. Now, on page 181, I'm going to start off right here. So you need to pick up on some things. All right. I'm going to show you a little bit. I'm going to read it. All right. It boils down to this: the Ashkenazim have no genetic or historical origins in Palestine at all. They are descendants of the Russian steppe tribesmen who were converted to Judaism about 740 AD because of political convenience. These steppe tribesmen were known as Khazars. The word Cossack probably derives from their name, and they welded together a formidable empire that lasted for at least 2 centuries. However, around 965 AD, the Khazar army was defeated by, pronounce it, the Sliva to Slav, Sliva to Slavs, Sliva to Slav, excuse me, the Duke of Duke of Kiev, and the Khazar power declined. Their domain was much reduced, but what really finished the Khazars as the Steppe Empire was invasion of Russia by Genghis Khan in 1218 AD, and the subsequent Mongol campaigns. By 1250 AD, they, along with the desperate flood of the non-Khazar and non-Jewish refugees, had been pushed by the Mongols into Eastern Europe. I told you that before, how Genghis Khan pushed a lot of those white folks into Europe, flooded them into Europe, and then they were causing havoc with the black empires of the black nobility was already there. Into East Europe. They lost their cohesion as Khazars, but retained their Judaism, their language, and many of their steppe traditions. They settled themselves into the towns, much like they had in the steppes of Khazaria, which they call the Shetels, and by the time of Kashmir III of Poland, they had settled down as Ashkenazim, Eastern European Jews who so astonished the incoming Jews or rabbis of true Sephardic origin. Why did these Khazars convert to Judaism? Why did these Khazars convert to Judaism in 740 AD? In a way, it was again, it was again the rise of Islam that catapulted the Steppe tribe of Khazars from virtually utter obscurity into some prominence 1,300 years ago, and into much controversy today. Within a century after the Hijra, Muslims had conquered Palestine, 640 AD, and had penetrated even further in Eurasia towards the Caucasus, so that by 641 or 642 AD, Arab Islamic forces conquered Persia. This new outpost of militant Islam obviously threatened and encroached upon the Christian Byzantine Empire, what had formerly been the eastern half of the old Roman Empire. Now that Rome itself had been sacked repeatedly by barbarians, it could no longer be considered the capital of any empire. Byzantium had become, in practice, completely independent. Ties with Rome, such as they were not only weak but particularly cordial. By 640 AD, there was a definite and irrevocable difference in language between Rome and Byzantium, with the Byzantines having long since reverted to their native Greek. There were also important differences in culture and custom, and departures from Roman orthodoxy in matters of religion. In brief, with the collapse of Rome in the West, Byzantium had evolved into an independent empire. Byzantine, as a word, has come to mean corrupt, decadent, and rotten with intrigue. In the politics of the city Constantinople, An empire were often just that. On the other hand, the empire survived with cultural cohesion until 1453 AD, although generally viewed by Romans and later Europeans as Greeks without the Western knack for warfare. Sir Charles W. C. Ullman, in his monumental A History of Art of War in the Middle Ages, gives the Byzantines high marks for military research, tactics, strategy, and administration. It was this that ensured Byzantium's lengthy survival. As early as about 400 AD, Byzantium had developed an answer to the Gothic Slavic horse warriors who threatened to overrun the empire's successive waves, all coming from the depths of the Russian steppes. This answer was heavily armored mounted archers. They were called the Tracti. Well, I can't pronounce that. The catapult Tracti, armored ones, and were deployed in troops of 100 horsemen. It was said, and proved often enough, that any Greek general with 1,000 Tracti at his back could defeat any horde of steppe horsemen. So, for about 250 years, for about 400 AD until about 640 AD, Byzantium basked in some security. It kept the wild steppe tribes of Russia, Khazars and Bulgars and Magyars and Alans and others, thoroughly cowed. Byzantium did not have to worry very much about intrusions by the wild Caucasian tribes, the Georgians, the Kurds, Armenians, and others, because although these people were fierce enough, they fought among themselves and kept themselves and each other confined to mountains on the far eastern borders of the Byzantine Empire. They also may explain how they were constantly invading, and in order some peaceful truce, they might have married some of their women, causing a bleach out, starting of a bleach out. Byzantium had settled down to enjoy delicious intrigue, a refinement of cultural decadence seldom matched in world history, and great wealth derived from being Europe's door to Far Eastern trade via canvas from across Asia. This happy situation changed in 640 AD with the Islamic conquest of Persia. Suddenly, there was major, aggressive, and equally cohesive military power right next door to Byzantium Empire. The balance of power had changed drastically in this new geopolitical ballgame. The steppe tribes suddenly became more important. Particularly, the Khazars became important because they were the most powerful steppe tribe in the region between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. Not only were they an important link in the long caravan route to the Far East, but they now held the balance of military power. Not powerful enough to challenge either Byzantium or the new Islamic Persia on their own, the Khazars, allied with either, could ensure the defeat of the other. That being so, Greek Orthodox Christians from Byzantium, Islamic missionaries from Persia immediately launched energetic attempts to convert these Khazars. Religion was an obvious way of ensuring military and political control because the Khazars, if successfully converted to either Christianity or Islam, would fall under the spiritual control of Byzantium or Persia. You know, you see a lot of those Eastern Europeans, they're not considered as white. Some of them have some black mixed in them. Some of them practice Islam, some of them practice Judaism, some of them still practice the old Eastern Orthodox Christian church. So you see, I know in Chicago, a lot of them on the north side, they call ethnic whites. But here we go. It is not clear that at all what sort of religion the Khazars originally possessed. It was probably some form of shamanism, but it is very clear that the Khazar leaders fully appreciate the new situation. They knew well enough that their tribespeople might succumb to the more cultured and refined religious belief of the two sets of competing missionaries. At the same time, the chieftains at least realized with utmost clarity and real politic that they could not adapt either Christianity or Islam without losing much of their Asian trade profits and all their military independence. So these bastards just converted on political reasons. But some Khazar chieftains discovered Judaism and was intelligent enough to perceive that it was, in some ways, the parent religion of both Christianity and Islam. Judaism presented a solution to the Khazars' geopolitical problems. British historian J.B. Bury put the entire situation succinctly in his A History of the Eastern Roman Empire. The religion of the Hebrews has exercised a profound influence on the creed of Islam, and it has been a basis for Christianity. It had won scattered proselytes, but the conversions of the Khazars to the undiluted religion of Jehovah is a unique history. There can be no question that the ruler was actuated by political motives in adopting Judaism. To embrace Mohammedanism would have made him the spiritual dependent of the caliphs, who attempted to press their faith on the Khazars, and in Christianity lay the danger of his becoming the ecclesiastical vassal of the Roman Empire. Judaism was a reputable religion with sacred books respected by both Christian and Mohammedan. It elevated him above heathen barbarism and secured him against interference of caliph or empire. But he did not adopt, along with the circumcision, the intolerance of the Jewish code. He allowed the mass of the people to abide in their heathendom and to worship their idols. Okay, then Burry comment about the intolerance of the Jewish code suggests more than a hint of anti-Semitism. The fact of the matter is that the Khazars first came into contact with Jews because of enthusiastic anti-Jewish persecution being practiced in Byzantium. Intolerance of Jews came to be a public issue under Justinian the First, became vicious under Heraclius in the 1600s, continued under Leo III in the 700s, when the Khazars were converted and was maintained in the 9th century by Basil and Leo IV, and by Romanus in the 10th. Leo III, who ruled Byzantium during the 20 years just preceded the Khazar conversion, attempted to end the anomaly of the tolerated status of Jews by ordering all his Jewish subjects to be baptized. And how was this coercion accomplished? How did they force them? Anyone refusing to accept their erroneous belief was placed in an olive mill under a wooden press and squeezed in the way of olives are squeezed in the mills. These Jews of Byzantium who wished to retain their faith, yet wished to avoid the olive press of the Lord, fled. They could not flee southward, further into the heart of Byzantium. They could not go east because of the rather fanatical profile of frontier Islam just established in Iran, who would go west into the wilds of the uncivilized Balkans. The only possible haven lay to the north, the Khazar country, and there they found a pagan people who may have been both fierce and primitive, but who exhibited a good deal more religious tolerance than those who worshiped either the Gentile Christ or Allah the Compassionate. So, because of the Byzantine persecution, a few Jews came among the Khazars and chieftains, at least, learned of Judaism, enough to bring off the political religious coup of history. The actual Khazar conversion to Judaism occurred about the year 740 AD. All right, and then he talks about a detailed but obviously biased account of the event is offered in al-Bukhari's Book of Kingdoms and Roles, where he goes on, the reason for the conversion of Judaism of the king of the Khazars, who had previously been a pagan, is as follows. He had adopted Christianity. Another Arabic writer, al-Masudi, says, it was Islam that had been briefly adopted by the Khazar king. Then he recognized its falsehood and discussed this matter, which greatly worried him, with one of his high officials. The latter said to him, O king, those in the possession of the sacred scriptures fall into three groups. Summon them and ask them to state their case. Then follow the one who is in possession of the truth. So he sent to the Christians for a bishop. Now, there was with the king of a Jew, skilled in argument, who engaged him in disputation. He asked the bishop, what do you say of Moses, the son of Amram, and the Torah, which was revealed to him? The bishop replied, Moses is a prophet and the Torah speaks the truth. Then the Jew said to the king, he has already admitted the truth of my creed. Ask him now what he believes in. So the king asked him, and he replied, I say that Jesus, the Messiah, is the son of Mary. He is the Word, and he has revealed the mysteries in the name of God. Then the Jew said to the king of the Khazars, he preaches a doctrine which I know not, while he accepts my propositions. Then the king asked for a Muslim, and then sent him a scholarly, clever man who was good at argument. But the Jew hired someone who poisoned him on the journey, and he died. And the Jew succeeded in winning the king for his faith, so that he embraced Judaism. Of course, the Jew did not have to bother poisoning anyone. The Islamic mullah would have feared no better than a Christian bishop. But Christian and Muslim accept the truth of the Old Testament, while the Jew knows not the doctrine of the New Testament or the Quran. The king, politically motivated in any case, saw the wisdom of accepting the common denominator. All right. Thus, where the Khazars converted to Judaism sometime around 740 A.D. All right. So these fools converted to Judaism. I'm going to go read a little bit further. Then I'm going to end this. Now, what precisely does this mean? It means most probably that the king and the notable tribal chieftains following his lead immediately accepted Judaism, but that the mass of the people did not. Nevertheless, because of the prestige of the new religion amongst the nobles, and because of the expectation coming from the top down, it seems probable that ordinary Khazars adopted Judaism at a gradual but steady rate. Within a bit more than 2 centuries, say, at the height of Khazar power around 950 A.D., it seems reasonable to suppose that most Khazars had become Jews. Certainly, by the 10th century, an Arab chronicler, Magadisi, could observe in Khazaria steppe, sheep, honey, and Jews exist in large quantity. This personal comment is verified by archaeological find. Upon the Khazars' adopting of Judaism, the Hebrew language and script were adopted by the Khazar administration in the capital city, Khazarin Itil, on the Volga. All right, I'm gonna stop right there because I don't want to just keep reading. I want to stop right there. Now, I just wanted to say that these people are not the original Jews, man. And this is a good book. This is written by a white dude from Canada. He breaks it down how these people are nothing but really from the Caucasus, man. And these people are not indigenous to anything. These are white people. I told you Nasser said, quote, in around 1956, 58, when he made the statement that the Jews left Africa as black, only to return as white. Because he know these people are not the original Jews. All right, I'm not saying they're not Jews. They're not the original ones. So what Kyrie Irving said should not be offensive. It's only offensive because people are starting to wake up to these damn lies. So I'm going to talk about this more, but this is a good book. Chosen People from the Caucasus by Michael Bradley. All right. I just want to talk about that real quick. Because this, you hear them coons like Charles Barkley, you know it's a coon. Shaquille O'Neal, the big 7'1", 7'2", buck dancing coon. Kenny Smith's a coon who went to North Carolina. They didn't want to stop black folks attending that school now, unless you're an athlete. And you got these coons. Richard Jefferson went to Arizona. You know, that's another coon. And I forgot the other coon who went to LSU. I think he went to LSU or Wisconsin. That coon who comes on all the time on ESPN. You got so many of these coons on television, man. It's pitiful, man. It's sad. So, but I just want to throw you that real quick about how they converted to Judaism in the 700s A.D. These are not the original Jews. All right, they converted to Judaism for political reasons. They're not the original Jews, but also sort of talked about how a lot of those white people in Eastern Europe, they do have some black ancestry. You can look at them because they look different from other white folks. You can tell looking at their certain physical features with their hair may look a little different or a different color. Their lips a little bit fuller. They physically look a little different. They're white, but they look different. All right, you can say they're amalgamated Moors, whatever, but they look physically different. They're white people, but they look physically different because they're nothing but half breeds. Their origin comes from originally some black person mixing with the white barbarians. So I'm just letting you know that when you look at these people, you can tell the difference. So even when you go amongst the white folks, they always talking about Eastern European, Western European, or ethnic whites. Those are your ethnic whites, the so-called Jews, the Orthodox Christians, and the Muslim whites. Those are your ethnic whites who are different from the other whites, who a lot of those whites view them as inferior. Because I know personally how some whites used to make Polish jokes and tell me that. I didn't find that stuff funny because like, why you telling me that? Because they always differentiate themselves from them other whites. But when it came to numbers and it came coming to keeping us down, they formed together like Voltron. All right, so I'm just giving you that information. I'm going to try to have another video. Don't have nothing to do with this, but I just want to throw that down. That's a good book to give Michael Bradley. He wrote The African Discovery of America, which is the Black Discovery of America in Canada, and Iceman Inheritance. All right? Peace and love.